Okay, now we're going to find the area of a regular polygon using the apothem method. Okay, so, and I have the formula listed below. But to find the area, it's the perimeter of the regular, key emphasis regular, that means all the sides are congruent to each other. That's very key. It's the perimeter times the apothem divided by 2. So how many sides do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have remember the perimeter is the sum of the sides, right? So there are 8 sides, and each side is 6.6. So it's the perimeter. So 8 times 6.6, and maybe I'll just go ahead and put that in here. 8 times 6.6 times the apothem. So pretty easy. 8 times 6.6 times the apothem, and you've got 422.4, and then since there's no units, you would just put unit squared, and that's really important. And maybe just tell students to put units here so that they can remember to put units squared. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next part. So there's the interior angle sum, the interior angle, the exterior angle, and then the exterior sum. And I'm going to kind of show you it all on one thing. So to find the interior sum, the measure of the interior sum. So this is what I'd like you to show kids. Let me do it on a shape that's okay. We'll use the octagon. So visually, one way that you could do it, most kids know that in a triangle, there's 180 degrees. Those 3 angles add up to 180. So if you were to start at one vertex, skip a vertex, that creates a triangle. Well, then keep from that same wow, that's a terrible line. So there's another 180 degrees. Another 180 degrees. Another 180 degrees. Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 of those 180 degrees. Well, not for a triangle. So the measure of the interior sum is 180 degrees times the number of triangles that have 180 degrees, right? Well, there's 6 of them. Wait a second. This is an 8-sided shape, forms 6 triangles. Well, 6 is 2 less than 8, and that's what the formula is. It's the number of sides or the number of angles. They're the same number. Subtract 2. And that's how you find the sum. Ooh, I needed to put the measure of the interior angle sum. That's how you would find that. All right. So in this case, it is 180 degrees, 8 angles, subtract 6, or subtract 2 is 6. So we would have 180 times 6, and you wouldn't, after this first time, you wouldn't have them write all of that out. So 180 times 6. So the measure of this 8-sided, the measure of the interior sum is 1080 degrees. Now the reason this is important is because now we want to find, so inside here, and I would recommend doing this, the total of all of these angles add up to 180. What about one individual? Well, that's pretty easy. If we want to find, here, let me do this in a different color now, the measure of one interior angle, it's the sum divided by the number of angles. Well, 1080 divided by 8 angles. This time you don't subtract 2. It's the number of angles. So that would give us 1080 divide 8 gives us, each one of those angles is 135 degrees. So the measure of one interior angle is 135 degrees. And then I would go ahead and mark one of them. Now, the next thing we have to find is, and I would recommend doing, even though I separated it into finding the interior sum, then the interior angle, then the exterior angle, I would recommend, just so they get in the habit, do all of the parts for each one. So then we need to find the measure of the exterior, each exterior angle. Look at, if we extend this line, look at what we have. We now have two angles that sit on a straight line. Those two angles add up to 180 degrees. So it's 180 degrees subtract the measure of the interior angle. So in this case, it's 180 degrees subtract 135 degrees. So the measure of one exterior angle, 180 subtract 135, is 45 degrees. This is 45 degrees. And notice if you extended, each of these would be 45. Because each interior is 135 degrees. So finally, the measure of the exterior sum, well, it's the number of angles times the measure of the exterior angle. So in this case, 8 angles times 45 degrees. And guess what? On every single one of these, doesn't matter if there's 1,000 sides or 1,000 angles, the measure of each exterior angle times the number of angles will always, that sum will always be 360. And this is the check. If you've done these other things correctly, then when you get down here, the measure of the exterior angle will, this is only correct if you did the measure of the interior angle. That's only correct if you did the total, the sum of the interior angles correctly. So this serves as the check. If you take the number of angles times the measure of the exterior angle, if it does equal 360, you've done all the rest of it correctly. If it doesn't, you made an error somewhere above. All right, let's see. Yep, I'll do a couple more things in this one. So each figure is a parallelogram. We just need to find measure. Well, you'd have to look back at the properties of parallelograms, but one of the properties is that two adjacent angles add up. So I should say the measure of two adjacent angles add up to 180 degrees. So these two add up to 180, these two add up to 180, these two. As long as, I shouldn't say adjacent, because that means they share a ray. I should say consecutive, I'm sorry. So any angle and its next angle, those two add up. So we could have put the 125 here, since opposite angles in a parallelogram are the same, and maybe they want to put it here. you'd be doing the same process. So you would set 125 degrees plus, I'm going to put, well, I'll put the -8. -8 plus 7x, and these are in degrees. So those two things can be added together. So we have 117 degrees plus 7x in degrees. Well, we're going to want to get this by itself. So we're going to subtract 117 from both sides. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. Or over to the side. So let's see, it looks like that's going to be 63 degrees. And then at last, you divide both sides by 7. So x will be 9 degrees. Now, to do the check, remember these two should add up to 180. So you do -8. This would just be a calculator check. 7 times 9 plus 125. That's what you'd have kids write in their calculator or just on paper, enter, and what they should see is 180 degrees. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is finding the median. So remember what a median is. A median for a triangle or for a trapezoid it's a bisector of the two sides that it touches. Okay? It's a bisector. So those two sides are the same and these two sides are the same. Okay? What we also know about the median is it's base 1 plus base 2. It's the average. So you just add those two. So if we want to find the median length, you add the two bases together, divide it by 2. So for here, we would say base 1 is 7 units. Base 2 is 10 units. Add those together, divide by 2, and you're going to get 17 units divided by 2 is 8.5 units. And then have students write the median is 8.5 units. I would actually have them mark it up here as well, just so that they're tying what we're doing mathematically to visually what it is we're actually doing. Okay. Now, when you get to ones where you know this, well, remember the formula is the median is base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. Well, in this case, we know the median. We know base 1. We don't know base 2, so you could put an X or a question mark. And then you have to use algebra skills. So because what we're finding is in the parentheses, to cancel what's in the parentheses, you have to first, or to get what's in the parentheses, the B2 by itself, you have to undo everything. To undo a divide 2, we multiply both sides by 2. We multiply that by 2. Let me type it in. I think it's 25.6. But really quick, I'm going to double check because I make errors as well. 25.6, and again, these are units. Now that's 15.1 units plus base 2 in units. Well, to get base 2 by itself, we now will subtract 15.1 units from both sides. So 25.6 subtract 15.1 gives us 10.5 units is base 2. And then go ahead and have them write 10.5 units, is base 2. Okay, I'm going to do the next one in a separate video. All right, that's it for this one.